I think the traders started the paper price down, and it started hitting stop after stop after stop as the hedge funds covered or sold, rather. It allowed the commercials to cover. They covered almost 16,000 gold contracts at 100 ounces apiece. Do the math, it's a lot. They covered almost 6,000 silver contracts at 5,000 ounces apiece. It's a lot. So the traders took advantage. They've been getting destroyed over the last several months with the rise in gold and silver. There's still almost 200,000 contracts short COMEX in gold, and about 33,000 short. They used this as an opportunity to kind of level off their balance sheet. But here again, much like we've seen for the last several years, these corrections are very shallow.
After the 2024 U.S. presidential election, gold and silver prices declined due to a combination of factors influencing investor sentiment and market dynamics. The election's outcome reduced political uncertainty, prompting a shift away from safe haven assets like precious metals. This coincided with a strengthening U.S. dollar, as expectations of continued tight monetary policy or pro-growth economic policies under the new administration boosted confidence in the currency. A stronger dollar typically pressures gold and silver prices by making them more expensive for international buyers. Additionally, the Federal Reserve's hawkish stance on interest rates played a key role. Higher interest rates make non-yielding assets like gold and silver less attractive to investors seeking returns. Improved economic sentiment following the election further diminished the need for hedges against economic instability, while speculative profit-taking after a pre-election rally in precious metals added to the downward pressure. These combined forces have created a challenging environment for gold and silver prices in the immediate aftermath of the election. However, experts are certain that the decline would be relatively short-lived, particularly because of the many underlying fundamentals that caused gold prices to skyrocket from just a little over $2,000 per ounce at the beginning of the year to an all-time high of $2,774 last month. According to Andy Schectman, a popular bullion dealer and the president of Miles Franklin, the recent price declines in gold and silver prices are a function of the constant manipulation of the precious metals market by large hedge funds and commercial banks. Andy warns that this manipulation might continue for longer in the short term to allow these banks to cover their massive short positions and central banks to buy more gold and silver at lesser prices. However, Andy believes this manipulation cannot continue for longer. In a recent interview with Liberty and Finance, Andy examined some of the latest developments in the Ukraine-Russia war, noting that the recent escalation by Joe Biden might very well drive the world into World War III. We'll be sharing clips from Andy Schectman's insightful interview. Be sure to watch until the end, like and share this video, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell for updates on more valuable content. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the video.
What the Ukraine has on the Biden family, I mean, it's really insanity to push to that degree. And if it were the other way around, I said this on my own podcast last night. Imagine if this was the United States in a war with a South American country, or God forbid, a Mexico. I mean, just suspend your imagination for a moment. And a bordering country, and Russia had provided $200 billion in cash and weapons, had provided strategic intelligence on where to fire and how to fire and how to fly the F-16s that they gave them, or the MiG jets, and then provided all of the missiles, including long-range, sophisticated missiles that they would need understanding and intelligence on how to use them, how to fire them, how to lock in the coordinates, all of those things. They don't just understand that. They're being fed information. And it's almost a declaration of war. It's insanity. It's complete and total insanity. And you'd like to hope that Putin understands this. But here you get a spokesman for the Kremlin coming out and saying that they've modified their use of nuclear weapons, or their nuclear weapons doctrine, saying that new modifications signify the use of Western non-nuclear rockets by the armed forces of the Ukraine against Russia can prompt a nuclear response. Now, we'd like to hope that that's just rhetoric, but at some point, you have to ask yourself, I mean, is this just the stupidest thing you've ever heard? To contribute to this degree, to be involved in this war that really we shouldn't be involved in, and to continue to fund it to the degree that we are, to provide weapons, to provide F-16s, to provide these missiles and the intelligence and the $200 billion that we've given them with no congressional oversight. Yeah, it is a provocation of war. If it were the other way around, people in this country would be freaking out and screaming, this is a war. It's reckless. And when you think about it, this is the most chaotic geopolitical period in all of our lives, at least probably since World War II. And when you think about, what this truly means, it's insanity. I mean, let's just hope it doesn't provoke something much, much worse. But you have to ask yourself, what the hell are they trying to do? I mean, typically this would be a transition period where the president is wrapping things up, not engaging or escalating a war that is dragged on for far too long and we've been far too involved in, and now bringing it up to this level using sophisticated long-range weapons that could actually outfit a nuclear warhead is the most foolish thing I've ever seen. And then let's not forget that when we talk about the finances of this country, the Congressional Budget Office says even if you get Vivek and Musk to come in and trim all of the fat, that 100% of tax receipts would go just to pay the interest on the debt and mandatory entitlement, which they said they won't touch, like Social Security and Medicare, by 2031. And that doesn't take into account things like defense spending, which are discretional. So we're bankrupting our country. We're inciting a reaction from a nuclear powered country. I don't know. To me, we should have listened to our founding fathers.
Recently, President Joe Biden's administration made a significant shift in its approach to the Ukraine-Russia conflict, authorizing the use of long-range U.S.-supplied Army Tactical Missile Systems, ATACMS, by Ukraine for strikes within Russian territory. Moscow has viewed this decision as an escalation and a sign of deeper U.S. involvement in the war. Kremlin officials labeled it a new spiral of tensions, warning that it fundamentally alters the nature of the conflict by potentially drawing NATO into direct confrontation with Russia. This shift followed reports of North Korean troops supporting Russian forces, heightening U.S. concerns about the conflict's evolving dynamics. In response, Russia has intensified its military actions, including a significant missile attack on Ukraine's infrastructure and reported use of intercontinental ballistic missiles. However, Western sources debated whether the latter was accurate. Russia also revised its nuclear doctrine, potentially lowering the threshold for its use of nuclear weapons, particularly if faced with threats involving NATO-backed military efforts. Andy believes the U.S. president's decision is in poor taste and antithetical to the America First policies he believes we will have under Trump. During his interview, he also discussed recent gold and silver price declines, noting they will be relatively short-lived and that we will soon be back on track.
I mean, first and foremost, price is controlled in the futures market. And the big decline in gold and silver futures over the past few weeks was, I think, a realization by the traders that there was, I guess you could say, a sense of people being gullible enough to believe that the Trump administration would halt the upward trajectory of spending, that inflation would be reined in, that the markets would go up eternally because of the Trump trade. And he may be good. And let's just call it what it is. I'm very happy that Trump was elected, and I hope we get a good portion of our culture back. I think people were optimistic. And so the decline in the futures is, I think the traders started the paper price down, and it started hitting stop after stop after stop as the hedge funds covered or sold rather It allowed the commercials to cover. They covered almost 16,000 gold contracts. They covered almost 6,000 silver contracts at 5,000 ounces apiece. It's a lot. So the traders took advantage. They've been getting destroyed over the last several months with the rise in gold and silver. There's still almost 200,000 contracts short on COMEX in gold and about 33,000 short in silver. So they still have large short positions, and every dollar up in gold and silver, they were getting hammered. They used this as an opportunity to kind of level off their balance sheet. But here again, much like we've seen for the last several years, these corrections are very shallow and they come right back up. And that's because the rest of the world knows we're in a pinch. And they use these opportunities where the paper price is smashed down to buy and to take possession and take delivery of. And I think it speaks to the real demand for gold and silver. And we're not even talking physical in retail. We're talking on a much broader basis. The biggest money in the world understands that. I think that this is a transition period away from things like U.S. Treasuries, which again are getting eviscerated as the 10-year goes higher, which has been weaponized, which has risen by 500 basis points in a year, which is succumbing to inflation. And because of the weaponization and because of this inflation and ultimately, I guess it's a long shot, but you could even say default risk. And what we did with Russian treasuries is default. I mean, call it what you want, call it sanctioning. It's stealing. We defaulted. And we used it to fund the Ukrainian war. And these are things, they're doing the same thing in the European Union. These are very provocative moves. And so the rest of the world is saying, I don't want to hold treasuries anymore, and I'll buy commodities with it. But they're very shrewd in the way that they do it. They don't buy it the way most people think they should. Just buy it all. Well, then the whole thing blows apart. Instead, they're doing it far more methodical, far more diabolical. They're playing the long game, and every time we're stupid enough to knock it down, they're there with dollars that are losing value and treasuries which are rolling off their balance sheet and using the proceeds to buy things like gold and silver, and boom, it comes right back up again. So it's not going to be straight line, but what we see with Trump is something we should be excited about. We should be happy that they're going to address all of the things that they are addressing, but it doesn't change the fact that one way or the other, whether it's orderly, where Trump were to do all of these things, bring back manufacturing, in order to do that, in order to do the things that he's talking about, we don't have a manufacturing base. We don't have the facilities or the machinery. You'd have to build all that. That takes time. You'd have to train people. All of the things that he wants to do to become more of a protectionist country, if you will, America first. Well, that could send us into a Great Depression.
All roads lead to some sort of serious economic crisis. If we continue with the status quo and keep increasing our debts, we will soon have to default on our obligations, leading to a massive credit collapse. But the way up is just as difficult, if not more. As Andy predicts, trying to right all the wrongs our leaders have made can lead to a Great Depression, which will devastate millions of American households. Please share your thoughts on Andy Schectman's interview in the comments section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future updates. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.